Okay, so far we've had national marriage equality across the US for about a week, and the country hasn't descended into chaos and anarchy yet. Somehow, same-sex couples are getting married, and the world has not ended. But it could at any minute. Here's Senator Ted Cruz reacting to the Supreme Court decision that overturned state marriage bans.
Today, it's some of the darkest 24 hours in our nation's history.
Really? Our darkest 24 hours? It's a week and a half after a racist mass shooting at a church, but this is our darkest moment? Darker than, I don't know, in chronological order, the passage of the Indian Removal Act, the Battle of Gettysburg, the Dred Scott decision, the 1918 flu epidemic, the stock market crash, Pearl Harbor, the assassinations of Martin Luther King or JFK or Robert Kennedy, the Kent State shooting, the Challenger explosion, the Oklahoma City bombings, among others. Worse than all of those is this: Jack Evans and George Harris, who shared their lives together for 54 years, finally seeing their relationship afforded the same dignity as anyone else's. That is one of our darkest moments. Then there's this line from Mike Huckabee, a TV personality who plays a presidential candidate every 4 years. He says that marriage equality for LGBTs is not a civil right.
What an insult to African Americans who were hosed in the street, who were beaten, who were truly discriminated against with separate restrooms, separate drinking fountains, separate entrances. That was true discrimination, and it was horrible.
Mike, discrimination isn't a contest. Nobody wins when you compete over who suffered more. Yes, it's true that African Americans have been discriminated against. Have same-sex couples experienced discrimination too? I don't know, maybe ask Anthony Sullivan and Richard Adams, who had to leave the country after the government wouldn't recognize their marriage. The INS wrote, "You have failed to establish that a bona fide marital relationship can exist between two faggots." Or ask all of the people beaten up by police at the Stonewall riots, or at Compton's cafeteria, or at the Black Cat, or at the Castro sweep. Or ask Clay Green and Harold Skull, who were forcibly separated, placed into separate nursing homes, kept apart until Clay learned that his partner of 20 years had died while the government seized and sold all of their possessions. The point is, everyone's suffered. The fact that they've suffered in different ways doesn't matter. But anti-gay politicians don't seem to get that, and they keep repeating this line that racism is bad, but discriminating against same-sex couples is okay because it's different, somehow. Here's Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal.
So I think it's offensive to equate evangelical Christians, Catholics, others that view marriages between a man and a woman as being racist. We're not racist.
But he's being very tricky with his words here. Nobody's saying that Christians are racist. Nobody's even saying that Christians are bigots. A lot of Christians, in fact, most Christians, 56%, support the freedom to marry. What we're saying is bigots are bigots, and some bigots use religion to justify their bigotry, just like they have in the past. And there's also a darker, coded meaning behind those words that you might have missed. Jindal and Huckabee and people like them keep saying that discriminating on the basis of race is different from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation. But how? Well, they conveniently don't say. But here's a clue.
I don't know whether people are born that way. People who are gay say that they're born that way. But one thing I know, that the behavior one practices is a choice.
That's the difference they're talking about when they suggest that racism is different from homophobia. They're saying you can't choose your race, but maybe you can choose how gay you are. Then there's this video from the group CatholicVote.org. Features a bunch of people who are opposed to equal rights for LGBTs talking about their beliefs like they're coming out of the closet and then worrying that they'll be discriminated against.
I am a little bit nervous about people kind of hearing that I am this way. I've tried to change this before, but
I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
Bigoted is a huge word that gets thrown around. It's just not true.
I think we don't need to truly be ashamed of how we really feel about things.
This takes some nerve. Pretending it's an act of bravery to discriminate when for literally centuries queer people have been oppressed and abused and killed with impunity. Saying you don't like a minority just because isn't brave. Here's the company that puts you in.
Well, I guess, and I'm just stabbing in the dark here, and I don't want this to affect our relationship, but I don't like black people.
So you want to withhold rights from a minority, but you don't want to be called a bigot. Well, I bet Alan Turing didn't want to be chemically castrated. I bet Oscar Wilde didn't want to be sent to Pentonville prison. I bet Frank Kameny and Rita Mae Brown didn't want to lose their jobs. And I bet Barry Winchell, Eric Limbembe, and Islan Nettles didn't want to be beaten to death. You say you don't want to be ashamed of how you feel. Well, there's an easy solution to that, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. Take a look at exactly why you're feeling ashamed. Maybe it's because you know your bigotry is shameful. Thanks for watching. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the reaction to marriage equality. You can leave me a comment on this video or tweet at me at Matt Baum. And you can check out my channel for more chats about LGBT issues. You might also enjoy my other project, The Sewers of Paris. That's a podcast full of revealing stories about the entertainment that's changed the lives of gay men. You can check that out at sewersofparis.com. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go prepare my survival shelter for the moment when gay marriage destroys the planet. I'm stockpiling scarves.